Shalom, and thank you for watching this video from HaDerekh Synagogue. I hope you are liking the content we are bringing you. If you could like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that will greatly help us. And to further help bring great content to you from our teachers, if you could please consider to donate to HaDerekh Synagogue. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for watching.
So Moshe said, "Who am I that I should go to Paro and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" Hashem said, "But I will be with you, and this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you." And that comes from Shemos 3. So I'm starting back a few partials ago. Most people stop here and use the old arm in the shirt leprous miracle. You know, here's my hand is leprous and now it's not. Or the staff, he throws the staff on the ground, it turns into a snake, and then he picks it up and it's back to being a staff again. That was proof that God was sending Moshe to free the children of Israel. However, that's not what the text says. But that is what we often read into the text. It says, "But I will be with you, and this will be the sign for you that I have sent you." This is the sign. "When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." God promised that he would be with Moshe. Yet the dialogue between the two, which features Moshe's inability to accept his duties, eventually angers Hashem, and he says, "Then the anger of Hashem was kindled against Moshe, and he said, 'Is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levi? I know he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You shall speak to him and put the words into his mouth. I will be with your mouth, with his mouth, and I will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as God to him. And take in your hand the staff with which you shall do the signs." Glad in his heart. You know what's most interesting about that verse? This is the first verse in the Torah that shows brothers getting along. I mean, to me, it's just amazing. We finally got that figured out in Exodus chapter 3. Whenever Tanakh says the anger of Hashem was kindled, something happens. The earth opens its mouth, a plague breaks forth, fire leaps from before Hashem, people die. In this narrative, nothing seems to happen. God gets angry and he announces Aaron is on his way with joy in his heart. I love that, with joy in his heart. In this anticlimactic episode, are we to believe Hashem gets angry and there's no mark in conjunction with it? Every other place in Torah and the Tanakh, God's burning anger results in a blow or a rebuke. This is why Rav Shimon ben Yochai says, in regard to this one too, a mark is mentioned. As it is stated, "Is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levi? He will be a priest, and you a Levite." And that comes from Zavakim 102a. The sages maintain that Moshe was invested with priesthood only for the 7 days of the consecration of Aaron and his sons. In context, Levi is mentioned here simply as a member of the tribe of Levi. No additional kedusha should be assumed. So here we have a plan B is substituted for a plan A. Moshe was supposed to release Bnei Yisrael from captivity, but also represent the people before Hashem as Kohen Gadol. Now a plan B is in place. Moshe serving as the lawgiver, and Aaron, his brother, is going to be Kohen Gadol. Oops. Hashem tells Moshe to bring Bnei Yisrael to Har Sinai to serve him. At that point, with the revelation of Hashem's voice at Matan Torah, Moshe and the children of Israel would know definitively that Moshe Rabbeinu was sent by God. And the text says, "And this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you when you have brought the people of Israel to Egypt." When you have brought the children out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. We see this as God's original intent. However, when we are released from captivity, the opening verse of Parsha Beishalach provides an anomaly that must be explained. And that comes from Shemos 13. When Paro let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the Pelishtim, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Mitzrayim. A seemingly discontinuity exists between bring them to this mountain and God would not send them by the way of the Pelishtim, because he didn't want them discouraged in the face of war. Another thing to remember is our war with Amalek. And that began when we asked, is Hashem with us or not? Shemos 17. These two conditions are mutually exclusive. We cannot return to Sinai and also follow the coastline to the Promised Land. The rabbis have concluded that we were not ready to leave Mitzrayim. Our faith in Hashem was weak, as seen in the narrative that follows. And that narrative goes from Exodus through most of Numbers. Therefore, instead of taking us a direct route to the Promised Land, as one could interpret the Bris Bein Habasarim as indicating, which is the covenant of the parts, God took us to Horeb, which is renamed to Sinai because of the sneh, the burning bush, the thorn bush. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Avram. And behold, a dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then Hashem said to Avram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with a great possession. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. And they shall come back here to the land of Canaan, that is, in the 4th generation. Bereshit 15, 12 to 16. The 4th generation. No, we didn't make it in the 4th generation. So that swirling cloud of symbolism that Avram had to go through is partially clarified in the Melchilta for Parsha Beshalach. For those who are interested, I have that book at my house. And it helps us fill in the symbolism as several critical pieces of the puzzle. In an act similar to Tzimtzum, which is a contraction or a constriction, Hashem takes a piece of the holiness of Zion and brings it temporarily to Mount Sinai. And the revelation of Matan Torah occurs. However, the revelation is a contraction of what we would have experienced had this event occurred on Zion as a plan A. While we experienced the revelation at Sinai and received the Torah, had this occurred in Zion, we never would have lost the first temple, a temple built by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. The Tzimtzum expresses the idea that God began creation by contracting his Ein Sof, which is his infiniteness, to allow for a finite and independent realm to exist, and that is our universe. A second plan B is realized by our arrival at Sinai. It was intended that we head straight into the land of Canaan and receive the Torah at Mount Zion. Now when all the people saw the thunder and flashes of lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, the people were afraid and trembled, and they stood from afar and said to Moshe, you speak for us. You speak to us and we will listen. Do not let God speak to us, lest we die. But Moshe said to the people, do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you, that you may not sin. The people stood far off, while Moshe drew near to the thick smoke where God resided. Hashem listened to the voice of the people, and this is when the duties of the Nevi was created. The people as a community would no longer hear the voice of Hashem. Instead, God would choose a written document as the foundation of our faith, and emissaries, Nevi'im, to further speak revelation to the people. Now another plan B, a third one, involves the voice of Hashem being heard only by the prophets. Never again has the voice of God been heard by the nation as a unit, or any nation. The Bechoros were to assist the Kohen Gadol, that is the firstborn. That was the original intent. They would assist the Kohen Gadol and the Kohanim in the temple, or in the tabernacle service. This concept was brought to the fore during the 10th plague when God said, we are to sanctify the Bechorim, the firstborn. They were set aside for a special purpose. At the Het HaEgel, at the sin of the calf, which is next week, the Bechorim were performing their tasks as Kohanim before the golden calf. When the Levium stood and killed those who sacrificed to the idol, Moshe said the Levium would be ordained for their service before Hashem. It is at this point that the Levium are chosen for this special task as aides to the Kohanim. Now, as an aside, had the tribe of Dan done this, it would be the Danim who would be serving that function. But it wasn't, it was the Levium. But in true Temurah fashion, Temurah means substitution. The Bechoros still had a Kedusha or holiness that cannot be removed. For more information on that, please join us on the Daf Yomi between December 22nd, 2026 through the 23rd of January, 2027. And that's when we'll be studying that portion of the Talmud. And just so you know, this cycle ends on June 7, 2027. So we have a little bit of time left before we begin the cycle again. Shemos 32. And when Moshe saw that the people had broken loose, for Aaron had let them break loose, to the derision of their enemy. In other words, we became a joke. Then Moshe stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on Hashem's side, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. And he said to them, thus says Hashem, God of Israel, put your sword on your side, each of you, and go to and fro from gate to gate, throughout the camp, and each of you kill his brother and his companion and his neighbor. And the sons of Levi did according to the words of Moshe. And at that day, 3,000 people, thereabouts, died. And Moshe said, today you, the Levium, the Levites, have been ordained for the service of Hashem, and each one at the cost of his son and of his brother, so that he might bestow a blessing upon you this day. So the loss of status for the firstborn is mentioned again in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 3, because it makes us, where chapter 3 makes it explicit that the Levium are to serve the function once enjoyed by the Bechorim. And Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, and I, behold, I have given the Levium I have taken the Levium from among the children of Israel, instead of every Bechor who opens the womb among the children of Israel. And the Levium shall be mine as the firstborn are mine. For on that day that I killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to me all the Bechoros in Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am Hashem. Bamidbar 3. Now, what that's saying is the firstborn still have a special Kedusha, but that Kedusha no longer is translated into service at the temple. It's only the Levite. So when the Levites returned from their grisly task, they were ordained for the service of Hashem. Their duties would be the duties stripped from the firstborn of Israel. So the fourth plan B involves the temple function being removed from the Bechoros and given to the Levium. I think I said that about 4 times. Now, the Shekhinah was supposed to dwell within us. There wasn't supposed to be a dwelling place for Hashem, because we were to be the dwelling place. The Aron was a tool that allowed us to store the Luchos that Moshe brought down from heaven, a holy mobile mini, for a lack of a better term, for the most holy item from Hashem. And the text from Shemos 25 says, let them make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell in them. Shemos 25:8. I will dwell in the midst of Bnei Israel, and I will be to them a God, and they shall know that I am Hashem their God, who brought them up from the land of Egypt, that I may dwell in them. I am Hashem your God. Due to our obstinacy, our proclivity toward Avodah Zarah at this time, which is also called being stiff-necked. Stiff-necked, Avodah Zarah, synonymous terms. And our unwillingness to take responsibility for our sin, that hasn't changed. Or maybe that's just me, or was me, I should say. Hashem removed his presence from our midst and put it at a safer distance. Our desire for the mundane, our need for gross sin, our lack of faith was still too high, and this would be our death, were the presence of God to remain so close. Then Hashem spoke to Moshe, leave, go up from here and say to the people whom you have brought up from the land of Egypt to the land that I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your descendants I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the 6 nations. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, for I will not go up in your midst, because you are an obstinate people, and I will destroy you in the way. Or I might destroy you in the way. Shemos 33. So the 5th plan B is the Shekhinah dwelling would no longer dwell in the midst of Bnei Israel. The presence of Hashem would dwell with the people at a safe distance away, in the Mishkan, far separated from the people of Israel. Now, if you got a picture of the camp in your head, you got the Shekhinah, you got Levi, and then you got the 12 tribes that surround. So we are now at a distance. If one can extrapolate that the original plan B was for Moshe to lead us from the land of Egypt into the promised land to construct a house of worship for God, we failed to accomplish that goal for about 700 years. That's how long it took. The 6th plan B is the building of a Mishkan that would stand the same amount of time, almost the same amount of time, about 700 years, before we built the base Rishon in Jerusalem under the leadership of Shlomo. So after we received Torah and the Mishkan was constructed, we leave Mount Sinai and head toward the Promised Land. And Bamidbar 13, God permits us to send spies to reconnoiter the land. Now, Devarim 1 gives a really good portrayal of the events leading up to the Chet HaMeraglim, the sin of the spies. When they return, the 10 spies give a negative, frightening account, while 2 give a positive, God-centered account designed to inspire faith. However, we chose to listen to the bad report, and our reaction was over the top, dramatic, and preposterous. And we really haven't changed. All you got to do is just read Facebook. And the whole congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all Bnei Israel murmured against Moshe and against Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt. Would that we had died in the wilderness. Why did Hashem bring us into this land? To fall by the sword? Our wives and our children will be prey. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? And they said to one another, let us make a captain and let us return to Egypt. Then Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Yehoshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Yefuneh, who were of those who spied out the land, rent their clothes, and they spoke to the children of Israel, to the congregation, saying, the land which we passed through to spy out, it is an exceedingly good land. If Hashem delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Hashem. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. And you know what we do with bread. Their defenses is removed from over them, and Hashem is with us. Fear not. But the whole congregation moved to stone them with stones. But the glory of Hashem appeared in the tent of meetings unto all the children of Israel. That comes from Bamidbar 14. This event was the last straw. 10 times we failed to believe in Hashem. The adult generation who experienced the Exodus would perish in the desert prior to their entry. So now the 4th generation is not going to enter the land. A seventh change in course occurs when a plan B turns into a plan C. Originally, we were supposed to go up the coast to go into the land. So now we're supposed to go to Sinai, get the Torah, and then go into the land. Well, we failed to go into the land, so now it's a plan C. Now we get to spend 38 additional years wandering around and waiting for everybody who was counted in the census to die. You know what's amazing about that census? Is that only those who were part of the war machine, for lack of a better term, were counted. Those who were infirm, those who were under 20 years of age, the women, those who were not worthy to pick up a sword, say somebody who was crippled, they were not counted. So they, since they were not counted, still were alive, unless they died. So I always looked at it this way. There was a whole tribe of bubbies just waiting to go in. A lot of grandmothers went in because they weren't counted. Now, while this may seem like a long list of depressing twists, there was one more. And that's when Moshe struck twice the rock instead of speaking to it. And it produced water soon after the death of Miriam. The punishment for failing to uphold Kiddush Hashem in front of the congregation, Moshe lost his ability to enter the promised land. At the end of his life, Moshe climbs on Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah. This comes from Deuteronomy 34. There he looks upon the land, but is never able to cross over. 30 days later, in another plan B, Yehoshua ben Nun, the children of Israel, under his leadership, cross over the Jordan, and under his guidance and leadership, they continue the conquest. Because the conquest began under Moshe Rabbeinu, but it finishes under his leadership. What's interesting, though, and I think I've already mentioned this, is the main reason why Moshe could not enter the land was not because of Moshe's sin. It was because of our sin. We did not deserve to have a Moshe on the other side of the land. Now, I say all this to point out something. We tend to uphold Moshe Rabbeinu as a perfect leader, but he was just a human being like you and I. He made mistakes. Or even Hadassah, Esther. We read in the passage of Purim, Mordecai sent a response to Esther, and he says this: "Do not think to yourself that you can escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if you hold your peace at this time, then relief and deliverance will arise to the Jews from another place, not from her. And you and your father's house will perish. For who knows whether or not you have come to royal station for such a time as this." She was scared, and she wanted the easy way out. Understandable. I mean, anybody who's human can understand. It's like, I would rather just be quiet and not put myself at risk. Now, Hashem is able to take an imperfect person like me, like you, like Moshe, like Hadassah, and make wonderful things happen. All it takes is for us to have trust in Hashem, for he will take the missteps that we do, the mistakes of others, and transform them into a cohesive, beautiful plan, because what God intends will always happen. To be part, we simply need to be available. Good Shabbos.